I know like when I first started, I was like, oh, I kept asking everybody, should I do a corporation or not?
Yeah.
Like just shut up and go buy a property. Let's talk a little bit in terms of financing. A question that I actually can't answer this question because I think everybody's scenario is unique, but I always get it. Should I start a corporation or not?
Yeah.
And from my understanding, from a financial perspective, especially early on, it actually costs you more money to early on buy stuff in a corp. For sure.
So you have accounting costs, you have legal costs. So you have all those maintenance costs.
If you had to guess, okay, let's say somebody buys a duplex in a personally versus a corp. What is the actual cost different for that dude? Are we talking like a couple $1,000 a year?
Yeah, probably a couple $1,000.
Couple $1,000.
So it's set up
per year annually. Or is that just to set it up?
To set up the corp up, you're about $1,500. If you want to use a lawyer, which I recommend, because if you don't know what you're doing, you might make a wrong move with like the shareholder agreement, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I recommend using a lawyer. So that's about $1,500. Then you have like maintenance costs for the accounting because you're going to have to do a year end. You're going to have to, submit like whatever the HST or
any rough idea what that might be?
You might be $1,000, $2,000, maybe something like that. You might be a couple grand, maybe. And another thing too is you're probably going to have like a 1% rate differential. So commercial rates are more than residential rates. So right now, what's like a residential rate, like 1.75 or something like that? Something like that. You're going to be 2.75 on a commercial.
Wow.
Yeah, you might, or maybe 2.5. You might see if you're like a superb I might get like 2.5 on a commercial rate, but like if you're like kind of a little bit more new, you might see like a 1% rate differential or rate spread. So it will cost you more in lending.
Let me ask you this: what do you recommend then for?
To me, because I've actually seen what ends up happening when I have holding property personally, how it has affected me commercially as well. And my debt coverage service rate or my debt service coverage ratio, it has affected it. Mm-hmm. Now, the banks understand why I've done that. And I do have a reason why, but it would be much easier not to have to explain it every single time I try to go and do something with a new bank.
So you see what I mean? You recommend then if... My general understanding is if you have a big vision of like 20, 30, 40 properties over 20 years or whatever it is, then it makes sense to start, even though it costs you more, you start building your commercial portfolio ASAP, even maybe at property one. But you have to understand it would be cheaper to buy your first 5 in your own personal
name.
And
it's going to be easier to get the financing.
And easier to get the financing.
It will be easier to get the financing because, they will look at you personally if you hold them personally in your name. So... and they will use your personal income to back up, lending the debt. So, it's a catch-22. I think if getting in means you can only do it personally, then you do it personally. If you have the wherewithal to get in from with the right way from the beginning, you do it corporately. You set it up the right way.
Don't let that decision. Slow you for even 1 second.
That's exactly.
It's not the most important decision. You can figure it out either way.
Like I'm still doing what I'm doing, even though I own personally. Yeah. I'm still doing it.
And there are ways to get up to 10 to 15 properties residentially if you mix banks. So
for sure,
that's not
mixed banks, credit unions. There's different lenders that
with A to B lenders where you're getting great rates. So
now here's the thing too. Like I'll give you an example. Like right now, a lot of the lending that I'm doing is actually with credit unions because again, credit unions are offering residential rates and corporate rates right now with the big banks are a little bit higher than what I can get residentially with some credit unions that I have relationships with.
So
so you have to have a mix.
They're still willing to lend to you residentially.
There's no cap on certain like they don't run by the same kind of regulations or risk ratings as banks, right? So they'll do typically whatever they want. If they have an appetite for more rentals to put on the books, they'll open it up and give you residential rates.
So what kind of rates do you get from the credit union?
It's not far off commercially. It might be like maybe a half a point
lower or higher? Lower. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty good. And these are still
it's good enough.
These are still ultra low rates, and a couple things to think about.
Now here's the thing. Like let me just say this.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, let me just say this. It's only since the rates have come down significantly. Before they actually dropped significantly, the credit union on a residential level was significantly better. So I was doing a lot of lending through the credit unions.
I see.
And also for the fact that they were allowing me to get, a loan to value scenario, like a fairly high loan to value scenario without having income on the property. So it was more favorable in my scenario to do that. Now things have changed. I think right now I'm able to get a lower commercial rate from the big banks. So that's why that's why I've pivoted my lending strategy to, during the construction period, I'm with the credit union as in an open scenario, and then I'm gonna close it in, or maybe not even close it in, depending on what the rates are doing with the big four, because they have better rates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to throw
that in. I guess the point, you have everything set up. You have relationships with multiple people, multiple banks. You have different scenarios. You have your corp set up, personal lending.
Yeah.
Just don't let any of this stuff slow you down or stop you, because I know, like, when I first started, I was like, I kept asking everybody, should I do a corporation or not? Yeah. Like, just shut up and go buy a property.
It doesn't matter in the long. Yeah. It really doesn't matter like that much. If it's going to prevent you from getting in, then you should do whatever. You should do whatever is going to allow you to get in, and not use that as like a crutch.
Yeah, I think
put off the decision.
Well, how about this? This is my recommendation for a beginner investor. Just buy it personally. It's the easiest way. You're new. You don't have the confidence. You don't have the experience. It's the easiest way is just go get a freaking loan from the bank and buy a property.
For sure.
It's super easy. No headaches, and it's going to save you money actually for the first couple.
For sure. And at the end of the day, if I really wanted to get rid of the scenario here, I could just sell the property. Like, it's not like that big of a deal. Like, I could. I don't want to sell it because I like the property, and it's a monster for me. So I'm not selling it. And to move it over into the corp is just too much money. So
land transfer tax,
like all kinds of right, legal fees, whatever. So I'm not doing it, but I could get rid of the scenario if I really wanted to.
Trigger.